Hi everyone, my name is Jen. Welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to my weekly reading wrap-up. In case you're new here and don't know, and for some reason you chose to go with the weekly wrap-up as your first video, I read upwards of 50 to 70 books a month, and so to give them each their equal due, to talk about each book that I'm reading, I do weekly wrap-ups, and then at the end of the month I usually just talk about my favorite books and some stats. So that is how it goes. So this week I've read 12 books so far, a lot of Audible and a lot of lighter fare this week. I've said that in the last couple videos. I've been reading a lot of like darker fare recently, a lot of mafia books, and I just needed a little bit of a mood boost. And so you're gonna see that with the books that I've read this week, and it has been a great trip. Like, I'm really glad I did that. I'm still, of course, will read some dark romance. I still have my taboo book club that I'll do monthly, but I'm just trying to ease up a little bit and give my brain a little bit of a rest, right? Okay, so let's start off with, I'm just going to mention real quick the books that I'm in the middle of right now, because, you know, I'm mostly almost done with them. I've been reading a lot of Mary Balogh this week. You'll see a couple of hers come up real quick. This is book 5 in the Westcott series, which, because Audible Escape is going to be going away in November, and so only people who like already have Audible Escape can like read them, I'm listening to a lot of my backlist historical romances that I can find, and I loved the Westcott series when it started, and then I kind of fell off of it. And so this book is great. This is a older woman, younger man romance, and it's these two families have become pretty intertwined over the last few books, and this is about a widow who is 35, and then her brother's brother-in-law who is 27, and he is looking for a wife, and they have this really great chemistry over Christmas, and then they kind of like make this agreement with each other to save the first waltz for each other during the upcoming season, and they just end up kind of falling for each other. So Mary Balogh writes much softer historical romances. They all have a lot of issues the characters are going through, but they're not as intense as, say, Kerrigan Byrne novels, which have issues that you graphically see them. Whereas in Mary Balogh books, if you maybe get triggered by some of those events, I feel like you don't have to worry about them being as triggering because they're not graphically in your face. There isn't prologues where you see our characters being assaulted or raped or murdering someone or things like that, as you will in a Kerrigan Byrne. So this book, our main character, she was abused by her alcoholic husband, and so she actually like moved away from him, and it was kind of a scandal because even when he tried to go get her back from her family, her brother, who's the head of the family, punched him in the face and was like, leave my sister alone, and, you know, kept her safe, which was a scandal for the time. But anyway, I'm almost done with this book. I will actually finish it while I'm editing this, so I just wanted to show that to you. And then I'm 100 pages into An Indecent Proposal, which is the Katie Robert, traditionally published. These are published with Forever. This is the third book in her O'Malley Mafia series, and I'm trying to catch up on my Katie Robert backlist while I wait for her new books to come out. So this one, it's going great. I also will probably finish this one either tonight or tomorrow, so I figured I would show this. So those are some books that I'm in the middle of right now, as well as still The Savior's Sister, which I need to finish because it comes out in a week and a half, but I just haven't been in the mood, so hopefully the mood will strike me soon. So let's go ahead. I'll start with one of the dark ones that I did read was Obsessed with His Bride by B.B. Hamel. This is a mafia story. This is a girl's father tries to give her to the mob boss to make up for his sins, and the guy agrees to take the girl to save her and then kills her dad anyway, and then she was supposed to be given to him as a bride, so that's why it's called Obsessed with His Bride, but really she's not his bride for the entire book. So I was a little disappointed in that respect. I gave this book a 4-star because I thought it was going to be more of like an arranged marriage at the upfront, but it was really more she was staying in his home as he was trying to clean up his organization and get the people out of it who had betrayed him, and then he was going to let her go, and they just never get around to that part. So I don't feel like it totally carried out what the title promised me, but it was still good. B.B. Hamel, this is the third book by her that I've read, and I just enjoy the quickness of them, and then it was pretty spicy and fun too. Then I finished Crescent City by Sara J. Maas. I've already done a dedicated review for this. I'll go ahead and link that in the card. I love this. I gave it 5 stars. It definitely is set up heavy at the front, but for the series that she's planning to build, I feel like it was necessary. And this was though it was a build uphill for a while, the world was so fascinating and fleshed out to me that I didn't mind. This book has angels, archangels, fallen angels. It has fae, werewolves, mermaids, sprites, chimera. It has everything magical, and it's a bit of urban fantasy, which is not my favorite, but I bought in because of the author, and I'm glad that I stayed. And it's also a few of my friends' favorite book this year, and well, it's not going to be my favorite book this year because I've read a lot of books. It is a 5-star. It was great, and also I'm glad I waited because we're only about 3 or 4 months away from the next ACOTAR book, which I'm excited for. So this was great. Then I started the light and fluffy series that I read. Okay, I probably won't go into super detail about each of these because one is kind of like the other. But again, I said I wanted to read some lighter books, and so my friend Becca from Becca Atkins, hey Becca, thank you so much for these recommendations. I've already told her this. I started reading Sara Ney books, okay? So she writes college sports romances. I feel like most of the people that are in college, they're sports romances. But I read a trilogy by her, which was called the Jock Hard or Jock Row. It was Jock Hard is a series. Or is it Jock? I don't remember. Jock Road. I think maybe it's Jock Road. But the first one's called Jock Hard. And this one is about a couple that meets when the girl goes to a party with her friends and she becomes a cock blocker at this party. And so the guy in this story, he has to kick her out of the party and then keeps her from coming back inside. And though that seems super jerky of him, they quickly start flirting with each other, and she continues to come back to this house every Friday, and he pretends that she's not welcome inside so that he can stand on the porch and flirt with her. And really, I love this book. There's like not a ton of conflict in this story. It is just a sweet romance of these two falling in love, and I loved that. I did. I normally want there to be more going on in this story, but both of the characters were so charming, and although I was nervous because the fact that she was called a cock blocker and got kicked out of a party was about to be really frustrating for me, but it's supposed to be. Like, it's supposed to be kind of douchey. They're late teenagers, early 20-year-old. They're not smart. And then as they like spent time together, it was just sweet. It was really cute. Next, there was Jock Rule. And so this one is about like a mountain of a man who I think he plays rugby is his sport. And this is a friends to lovers. So it's a girl that's considered not that cute. And there's this guy who he's grown this beard and like hides his face because he is a rich boy. Like, he's from a really rich family. And he doesn't want people to know who he is or fall in love with his looks because he has, you know, had it tough because of that in the past. And so he takes this opportunity to kind of, he's going to help this girl find a boyfriend, and then everyone she meets isn't good enough for her. And I love stories like that. Like, they're my bread and butter. So I had a really fun time with this story. He's also just like super tall and tiny, and there's bed sharing in this book. And it's just cute. And so he's a grumpy hero, and it was just adorable. I liked it. Next was Jock Rowe, which was a virgin hero. I can't remember what sport this one's in, but yeah, this one was cute. And he's stayed away from girls because he's been warned about jock chasers. That's a big theme by Sara Ney. And it's true. It's a thing. Like, girls trying to find someone when they're in college and then either, like, get pregnant or make that person fall in love with them so that they will stay with them and be their ticket, their meal ticket. So, all right. Then I'll just finish with the Sara Ney books. We won't go completely in order. So then after I finished that trilogy, I looked on Audible Escape to see which other Sara Ney books there were, because they have some of my favorite, like, contemporary narrators too. There's a few that I really, really like that just fit the role really well. And so then I started the How to Date a Douchebag series, which has been really fun. So I've read 3 of the books so far, and I'm on the 4th one right now. But the first one is called The Studying Hours. And this one, it's just like it sounds. The dude is a jerk. These are wrestlers in this series, I think. Yeah, these are wrestlers. So yeah, this one's called The Studying Hours. And I can't remember how this couple meets. But the next one is called The Failing Hours. And this one was really fun. So this one was the dude is failing a class and he needs a tutor. And he's just real douchey. Like, really. Every time he would be a jerk, I would remember, like, this is called How to Date a Douchebag. And I feel like the author pushes the person right to the edge where you're like, I could never fall for this guy. And then I do. And I really liked him. So that one was really fun. And then I read The Learning Hours. And so this one, I wrote down the names of this couple. So this is Rhett and Laurel. And so Rhett, this book was so great. So this one, the girl is actually the douche, okay? So, or jerk or whatever. And he is almost virgin hero. He's not a virgin, but he has been staying away from girls. So all those things I said before, so that he wouldn't get stuck in a relationship, he would focus on his career. He is a transfer student. He had transferred as a junior. He has only lost like 5 matches in his wrestling career, and he's being hazed hardcore by his friends. He gets a dine and dash where 12 of his team members leave him with the bill, and his family like can't afford that. He gets left with a $400 bill, which, like, man, this kid just gets it so hard. They do horrible things to him. They saran wrap his Jeep. And you know, there's a no hazing policy at his school, and so he's trying to have his teammates back even though they don't have his back. Oh god, I was getting so frustrated and trying to remember what teenagers, young adults are like, but man, I was getting pissed off. And then the big thing, which is the start of this book, is that his friends take his picture and his phone number and put 100 different photocopied of these on like the announcement boards all over campus that say "Get Rhett Laid" and his phone number. And so, this is just such an invasion of privacy. And he doesn't want to like tell his parents, so he doesn't get his phone number changed, and he just gets inundated with hundreds of women messaging him and like sending him naked pictures, saying that they'll give him a blowjob. They don't even care that he's ugly, because that's the thing. Rhett is called ugly or not that great looking, and like you feel it from his point of view. Like, he's not a conceited guy, but he's like, nobody looks past my face. He's like, I have a ripped body, I work hard, I'm smart and kind, and all people see is my face, and so they're willing to sleep with me because I'm a jock, not because they like me. So I was like, dude, I feel for this kid so much. So then we have Laurel, who she is going to this school with her cousin. Her and her cousin are the same age, and they're kind of bitches. And so her cousin dares her to text this number. And so she texts him, and he tells her to fuck off, because that's what he's telling all of the people messaging him. But then she has these like great comebacks, and so he just like doesn't stop messaging her. Well, then, because she's embarrassed that she's doing this, because she's a good person at heart and she realizes that she shouldn't have done this to him, and wow, she's starting to like him, she pretends to be her cousin. This doesn't last for very long, which is good, but like, she pretends to be her cousin, and then they all end up at a party together, and then he hears her talking to her cousin, saying her cousin's name, and he's like, oh my god, it's you. And then her friend's like, but aren't you the one who is messaging him, Laurel? And so he just feels completely betrayed. But she realizes she messes up, so she doesn't back off. Like, she apologizes, and she's like, please give me a chance. I was loving talking with you. And by the time I realized I was loving talking with you, I couldn't change. So she just has it out. And then he's willing to do that. But the thing about this book that just, why I liked it, I gave this one 5-star, why I liked it more than I liked all the other ones in the series, is because Rhett doesn't realize that she likes him for him. And the reason why she kept talking with him and meeting with him and keeps bumping into him is she wants to date him. And so she straight up is like, puts her heart out there, and he's just like, she can't really like me. Like, is she still messing around with me? And she's not, she doesn't have, for being a really beautiful girl, that doesn't mean her self-esteem is perfect. And so she's like, I'm not going to embarrass myself for you. And I just don't, like, she's like, I'm not going to embarrass myself for you if you can't realize that I like you. So, you know, do something about it. And he's just stunned. He's just stunned that she would actually like him. And I loved that. He was so sweet. So that, and of course, like with this series, you can jump around. If those other two, if you don't want the guy to be jerky, like, try reading a book where the girl's a jerk. Because she's not a bitch. She just makes some bad choices. She's 20 years old. She doesn't have to be super smart. It's okay. And she makes up for it for me. Like, I never hated Laurel. Like, her conscience is telling her she's being a bitch, and so she's trying to make up for it. It's just that Rhett is like, I don't have time for you to be like this. You know, like, I have a career I'm working on. So I really, really liked it. Okay, so let's get to some more Mary Balogh. I said I was going to talk about it. I have had these 2 books by her for 2 or 3 years, I think, because I went on a phase of hers where I like got all of these from, I think I got all of these from Book Outlet a couple years ago. And I've been wanting to read them. And like I said, I found a bunch of them on Audible Escape. And since Audible Escape is going to be going away, I was like, let's use this chance to get through them. Because I really like listening to historical romance. I've discovered that. So I found these 2 books. So the first one is called Heartless. And this one, so I'll be honest. Both of these books were 3.5 for me, which is really low for a historical romance to get for me, okay? These are not the normal action-packed ones. And well, you know, like I said, I really like this series because I really like the characters. These ones are also set during Georgian times, which is not my favorite. I don't like the clothes. And especially our hero, he is a fashionista, whatever you'd call it. And he has spent a lot of time in Paris, and he comes back, and he isn't going to find a wife. But then within a couple days, he like finds a wife, and he meets this woman who, it's so much to explain. I don't want to do it. But this book has a trope that I really don't like. And that trope is man knows a woman isn't a virgin just by feeling her with these. And I just really hate that. Because, well, I will believe that in full penetration, you would know, just because maybe a woman like wouldn't hide that. It's not 100% that every woman you're feeling is going to feel the same, and you're going to know that they're a virgin or not, okay? And I really hate that, and I especially hate it when it's reason for the hero to think that the heroine's a liar and cheated them, okay? And so that happened also in a book I read last week, but I feel like the author had the hero grovel so much in that one that it was okay for me. And especially because he had in the past people try to trick him. And so it was like, it was believable in a sense. This one, I just didn't buy it. And I feel like by the time the hero learns the truth, there's only a little bit of book left, so he doesn't properly grovel for that. And I would have been more on track if he did. However, there is a very sinister reason why our heroine doesn't seem virgin or doesn't feel virginal, and it's not the normal way, okay? I know that's super vague, but okay. So I only gave this 3.5. But it was still pleasant, and I had it up to like 1.75, so it only took me a few hours to get through it, and I'm glad that I finally read it, right? Because I've had it forever, and it'll be okay. You'll probably end up seeing this on my eBay soon once I read through some of these. Oh, if you didn't know, shameless plug, I am cleaning up my apartment because I need to decrease some of the amounts of books that I have, so you can check out my eBay link down below. I have a lot of fantasy and some romance on there, and I'll be adding more every day, so just throw that out there. Then Silent Melody. So again, I only gave this one 3.5, but for that's because I had very high expectations for this one. I didn't know what I'd be getting out of this one, so I wasn't like disappointed. It just didn't like do it for me. Also, it's pretty clear to me that I like edgier historical romances at this point. Surprise. But I just like it to be grittier, and these ones aren't so much. So this one is about the younger sister of this woman, and she is a deaf mute. All right, her name is Emily, and we meet her in this book when she's about 15. And part of the reason why this heroine needs a husband is because she has she has 4 sisters. A couple of them are married, but she has this deaf mute sister, and she wants her to have a good life. And part of the reason I loved our hero, despite his assholeness, was the way that he treated Emily was amazing. And so the hero in that book, he has a younger brother, and that younger brother his name is Ashley, and I love when guys have a name Ashley. Sorry. Sea of Ruin. There's a hero named Ashley in that one as well. And she and he have a really great connection, but at the end of the book, he goes away to India. He joins the East India Trading Company? I don't know, but he leaves to kind of like grow up because he was still acting pretty childish. And so he was 22. He's 7 years older than her. He comes back. He's a widower. He's lost his infant son, and his wife died in a fire. And he's come back to kind of like start his life over. So he's very jaded. And Emily is just about to marry someone. And he comes back the night of her betrothal. And this kind of just throws them all into discombobulation. She's now 7 years. So she's now 22. And he's like 29, almost 30 or whatever. And there's so many things about this book that I liked, because I love how Emily is portrayed. She's not portrayed as being stupid. She has people in her life who, though they haven't made huge progress in how she communicates, they've tried their best. They still have the expectations that you'd have of anyone else of her, and they know that she's smart and brave and awesome, and I like all those things. But I was just expecting more out of this book. I wanted so much more out of the book. I love that it was an age gap. I love that she has loved him the whole time. I love that he was this bright, optimistic man who's come back a tortured hero, because I love that. But there wasn't a clear through line in this story, and it was just frustrating. So I think part of it is that when I bought this book and saw what it was about, I was so excited to have a deaf heroine in a historical novel, and then the story just wasn't exciting. She's also an artist, which was really cool. So there was all these elements I wanted to like, and then the ring around a Rosie just lasted too damn long, and I was over it. So I was sad. I really wanted to like this more, but I still love Mary Balogh. And I think, again, part of it just has to do with I like things to be a bit grittier at this point, and she's just much more like everything's fine. So that could be it. That could definitely be it. All right, so then there's just 2 last books to talk about, and they were a duology called the Too Good series by S Walden. So the first one's called Good and the next one's called Better. And so these have been on my Kindle wish list for a long time because this is the student teacher age gap. And so it's been on my list forever. And I finally bought it and I binged them in like 2 days, okay? And so, wow, these books are emotional, and they're emotional for a lot of reasons, okay? Number one, we have a 10-year age gap. We have her 17, he's 27. He's a math teacher. So right off, I'm going to tell you this. If you are any of my high school friends, Shauna, if you're watching this video, you know who I'm talking about. When I was in high school, I was in love with my math teacher. He was very good looking. He was a sweetie, and I needed a lot of extra help in math. Obviously, I didn't like try to hit on my teacher or anything because he started at our school when I was in 9th grade and I had him for 4 years. I took 2 extra math classes I didn't need just so I could be in a class with him. Long story short, I actually became really good friends with his fiance when they were engaged because he had his like high-level math class, had a barbecue at his house because there's only 7 of us. Small school. I went to a small school and we got to meet his fiance and I instantly clicked with her. We both love to read and I'm still really close friend. Well, not really close because now I live in a different place, but anyway. So there was something about this that like had me excited because I was like, oh, the nostalgia of being in love with my math teacher. But this book had way more that I related with than I was expecting too. So we also have a character who she's a Christian and she's going through some really hard times because she got a little crazy a couple months before and she did some cocaine, and her and the friend she was with broke into a convenience store and tried to rob it. And so she went to juvie for over the summer, and now she did community service all summer, and now school is starting up and everybody knows, and her parents don't trust her. She has a little brother who's 2 years younger than her who is a sweetie though. He's great. I loved the brother-sister relationship in this. And so she starts school and there's a lot of bullying going on. She's lost all of her friends. The friends that she did have, their parents have told her not to hang out with her because they think she'll rub off on them. And yeah, her parents have like, just won't even like look at her and are just like, she can never pay her time, right? So then there's this new math teacher and she actually meets him when she's doing community service alongside the road and he like gets a flat tire, and so she's like picking up trash by him and they like start talking and he's wearing a band t-shirt and they're talking about the band, and then that's her teacher. So they already had this connection, and there were a couple things about it that were like really hard to stomach, and I was nervous. Like I had icky feelings about this book because he pursues her, okay? He pursues her, and now I'll say this, like this first book really only works for me the way it does because of the second book. So I actually gave the first book like a 3.75 rounded to a 4-star, but I gave the second book a 5-star, and the second book made the first book work for me so much better. Like if I had just read the first book, I would have thought this guy was a creeper. His name is Mark. I would have thought he was just, what the fuck is he doing? Which is true because it's a teacher. He's 10 years older. It is gross. Real life. Remember, you know how I feel about this. But, so it's weird when he starts to pursue her because he starts to pursue her when she's still 17 and he's like, hey, I'm taking a big risk coming after you. And you know what? It was reminding me of my Vanessa, right? When I read that at the beginning of the year where it was actually like bad stuff happening. But he starts with just wanting to get to know her, and he can see that she's just been left alone. So there's all these things where if this book was told in a different way and with a different light, it would have been like, oh my God, parents, you've left your daughter vulnerable and there's this predator coming after her. But it doesn't stay feeling that way. And in fact, like, her family has every opportunity to see what's going on with her. And just the way her parents shut her out and cold shouldered her, the way her church cold shoulders her, and even when she is still like reaching out, like she tries so hard to get her family to welcome her back in, to pay attention to her, and Mark is the only one who's paying attention to her, okay? So I fully agree that if you could read this book and just be like, oh, this is icky, oh, I don't like it. Like, I understand, because I was feeling uncomfortable too. Moi, who liked age gaps and dark romances and uncomfortable things. Yeah, wow. But the way that this book ended, it ends on a crazy like cliffhanger. Wow. And then I immediately had to read good or better. And I won't spoil it, because I think if you're one of the people who like student teacher age gaps, also you're like willing to read that. Don't read this if you're someone that the student teacher is hard for you, because this is not the same as Dark Notes. This is not that kind. It's not the same as Ivory. This is like told so much more realistically of like, this isn't someone who's been being assaulted her whole life. She is from it's way different. Okay. That one is like this isn't told as a dark romance. This is told as like a sweet story. There wasn't like a lot of smut in it. Yeah. So what better adds is it adds Mark's point of view, because we didn't have Mark's point of view in the first one. It's all from her point of view. And it starts where the cliffhanger ends for the first one, but now we're getting Mark's flashbacks to what he was thinking while he's pursuing her, starting when she's 17 still. And then this duology takes place over like 2.5 years too. So it starts when she's 17 and it ends when she's like almost 20 years old. So you get them together for a while. And there are some crazy things that happen. We see this girl spiral. We see Mark not knowing what to do. We see her little brother not knowing what to do. It was so intense. I cried so much through the second book. There's some secrets that Mark is keeping that cause a big rift between the two of them, and it puts them both in a really crazy situation. And man, but I felt for him so much. Gosh, I can't tell you because I don't want to spoil it, but it just gutted me, and it was beautiful, and I loved it. I really did. So this was a very thought-provoking, it's not what I expected. It had so many elements of faith happening, because she stays she's a Christian this whole time, and Mark isn't, because of some things that happened to him. He's kind of turned away from God. And so this had way much more faith running through it than I was expecting for this kind of book. And the relationship these two have was very moving to me, and I really, really loved it. This wasn't just a trashy book. And when you look at the cover of Good, this cover that's on the front, that is not the book that I was expecting to get. All right. There is another book that actually has this same stock image as like the cover of it, which is funny. Like some books have that, just because if you're a self-published author, you like pick your own covers. And so this was not the book that I was expecting to get when I read this. It's not as erotic as this cover would lead you to believe. So anyway, I was very moved by it, and I wasn't expecting it. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you so much for joining me for this. I put up new videos 3 to 4 times a week. Let me know if you've read any of these. Let me know if you're interested. Make sure to check out my links to my social down below, my Amazon storefront, where I always have the books listed that I'm reading, what I currently like. And yeah, thanks so much for watching, and you have a great day. Bye.